stop recording so you can start new one. There you go. All right.
Welcome back to another episode of Cinestro. Of course, your boy Blacksby. And today we're talking about Big Andor, Big Superman, and Big The Last of Us. You already know who it is. You already know what it is. Roll the tape.
Cinestro called the cast. It's your weekly gold mine. Stay tuned in. Stay tuned in. They got the beats. Got those comic spins. I stay tuned in. Stay tuned.
Let's go. Let's go. Big ups, Andor. Big ups, Superman. Big ups,
Big ups, The Last of Us.
We're in the era of just great media right now, bro. This stretch of time from freaking The Accountant last month.
Shut
all
the
way
fuck up.
until
Don't group that shit in
next
to the rest of this
You
conversation.
really can't keep sneaking things.
No,
like
I'm talking about
you putting the
the
accountant
time frame.
and
I'm talking about the
Andor in
time
the
frame.
same sentence.
No, listen.
Okay.
I'm talking about.
Hold
Hold on. I'm talking about the fact that we went from bullshit at the beginning of the year to things starting to get better in April, and now we're in this stretch of elite cinema, bro.
I mean, that's fair.
Big
that's fair, but that's
cinema.
That's like instead of BC and 80 going like BC in that time Jeff went outside. Like it's two like very like inconsequential sets of time, but I get it.
No, I get what you're saying.
I get it.
We literally watched Minecraft, and then like it just got better after
God.
that. That shit was so ass. Anyway,
So we started with capital C cinema, and we're still in capital C cinema, baby.
Yes, sir.
Now I get what you're saying. It's a really good time for IP. You know, as you can get as existential and as kind of like cynical about like IP storytelling as a whole, right? We all know the problems of studios and corporations. You know, their inability to tell original stories, right? And how that affects Hollywood and kind of the quality of stuff that we're getting. But if you put that to the side, right, it is really refreshing to see that even within the constraints of IP storytelling, there is still some that is incredible, right? And there's some that still works, and some creatives and artists that are pulling off, I think, incredible feats in the space, despite the constraints of having to adapt iconic stories and characters. So it really is really refreshing and really exciting to see. And I think the three things that we're talking about today are kind of indicative of that.
I think,
speaking of iconic characters and elite works of art, our big topic for today. I know the other two are important, but this one might be this shit means something to me, man. Let's go ahead and get right into it, bro. Andor.
Hold up, Izzy was gonna say
something.
Oh
yeah. I was just gonna say, just overall, like with IP. There was an era where I think everybody was trying to go for like their own kind of like cinematic universe, you know, trying to go for like this big, grandiose epic, and kind of all around just have that recognition of a brand drive their film, or the marketing drive their film, instead of like actually making like a good quality product. And I think with the amount of IP stories we're seeing now, a real big benefit of that, it might seem unoriginal, it might seem kind of hacky or, you know, a little bit tacky to just have like a comic book or a book-based movie. But I think these characters have stood the test of time for a reason, right? In their existing mediums, whether it's like comics or games and whatever. And being able to take those IPs and being able to still like invent and tell new and creative stories, I think we're seeing more original takes, I would say, on characters than we've seen in the past with IP-driven films. So I think it's more of a good thing, at least now.
And by the same coin, you know, the kind of because of how iconic these characters and these stories are, sometimes does affect their ability to be adapted, or when they are adapted, does then negatively affect how the show is received, right? So I think it is very important to keep that in mind when discussing these projects, because I think they are very pertinent to the conversation that we're going to have about these projects at large.
Agreed. And also tacking onto the topic of IPs, you know, one of the things we keep stressing with all the stuff we talk about is the fact that a lot of these projects that we've seen and that we talk about on the channel are done by competent people who know exactly what the hell they're doing, and letting them be free to cook And that's one of the greatest things about Andor. Andor is not restricted to the Skywalker saga in Star Wars. Andor is not restricted to studio freaking machinations and manipulations.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have some random bullshit pop up in the middle of the show.
We might David and Graham might have to rescind their comments about Kathleen Kennedy because Tony Gilroy came out and said that she was incredible to work for, that she backed him every step of the way. He was like, I'm going to put a brothel on the show. She's like, go ahead and do it. He was like, I'm going to have rape in the show. She's like, go ahead and do it. He was like, I'm going to kill space cops. She was like, go ahead and do it. And so, I don't know. It's just really interesting. I just want to give props to her.
Wait a minute.
She gets shit on a lot when it comes to the state of Star Wars, and when it comes to talking about Star Wars, and hearing Tony Gilroy, who is hallowed in these halls of Cinestro Corps, the Cinestro
Corps Hall of Fame.
Exactly, Cinestro Corps Hall of Famer. So, it is hearing him speak so highly of her and kind of back her, I think is incredibly telling, because she gets a brunt of a lot of the blame when it comes to the state of Star Wars. And so it's very interesting to see that he was like, actually, she backed me every step of the way. It says a lot about the other
Luis, are you telling me, a Star Wars fan, that a woman is not responsible for my anger? Are you telling me that I should stop being an emotional child and blaming the failings of multiple directors and creative teams for not being able to thoroughly communicate any semblance of entertainment from an IP that's been around 50 plus years? Are you saying that I am a bitch for that? Nonsense.
It cannot
it's the woman's fault.
Possibly be exactly. No, but I just think it's very. I just think it's pertinent to the conversation because we talk about Matt had mentioned letting competent people do competent things, and we know how what a big proponent of this we are, especially when it comes to Andor and Tony Gilroy, and so it's just interesting to see how she backed him and it all worked out great, but when it doesn't work out, it's also her fault, which is very interesting.
Yeah, it seems like a very unwinnable situation.
It's a lose-lose. Now, before we glaze the goddamn hell out of Andor, I would like to leave one message. This is my final message to all the haters, the naysayers, and Star Wars theory, bro.
Shut up, bitch!
The soundboard.
His defenders are gonna come attack us in the comments, bro, like they have.
And you know what? I got a message for them too.
Oh, brother, this guy
what
stinks!
They're talking
no.
What's the message?
Brother, this guy stinks!
Oh, this guy stings.
I don't want to hear that shit. Anybody care about no Star Wars theory right now? Matter of fact,
why would we want to hear you when we can already smell you? Get back. Get away.
We see him coming from a mile away, shiny bald head ass.
Teeth as yellow as our logo. Boy, we're gonna sue you for copyright infringement.
Looks like an albino version of that little nigga from Shaolin Showdown. I fucking hate Star Wars theory.
Oh my god.
Anyway, his fans are gonna cook us. They're gonna cook us.
Nah,
but
they can try. They got the basement first.
But speaking of cooking, just to steer us back on topic.
Yeah. You were gonna say that?
Oh yeah, Matt, what'd you have? Yeah, have a little something you want to say?
I just said they're gonna have to get out their basement. The same way that Andor has brought Star Wars back from the basement of bullshit ass movies and shows. We are so fucking back, big dog. We are so back, dog. Let me tell you something. First of all, season 1 of Andor was already good. We're not gonna rehash it all because we've talked about this. I think we already talked about season 1 and talked about how great it was and how much we enjoyed every single bit about, especially that One Way Out speech. My God, or Lupin's speech at the end. I know there's some mixed feelings on it, but that's just elite writing, and the writing carries over into season 2. I knew what to expect because I already got a taste of good. I got a good taste of the genuine quality. Now I want the whole freaking plate, and we're getting the whole plate, baby. There's nothing bad I can say about this show. The only thing I can say bad about it is that it was not longer. that's my chief complaint.
Same.
12 episodes is a step up from the bullshit that we've been getting, the 6-episode nonsense or whatever they keep giving us. Let's keep it going. Keep the energy going. Let's get it. Let's push it over. Let's get to 15.
I disagree. I think
give me 15. I'm good.
I think with the way that they structured these episodes and how much they fit, right, and the way they were doing the time jumps, it was boom, 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 boom. So it'd be about like a 4-part time jump until you get to about modern day, right?
Yeah.
4
I
years
think-
apart from Battle of
And
Yavin.
judging by the way that each episode was about an hour long and all dropped at the same time, I felt like we were getting enough within that generation of Andor's life and basically what they had going on. And I feel like if they added in more episodes, you know, and kind of gave us some things that happen in between those blocks, or not letting us, you know, like really think for ourselves, you know, going for more of a tell, don't show approach.
Of course, it's like
know?
any, you know, all good
I
creators
feel-
and all good artists
Yeah.
have to know when to stop, right? You have
Yeah,
to know,
just like when I saw this this article that was saying that Gilroy originally planned to do 5 seasons, but he's like, nah, fuck it. This shit is 2. You get 2.
yeah.
This
I
is
think
this
that's
is a
perfect.
story I can finish in 2. 5 would have been pushing it. And I think the same thing, even though 5 seasons is drastically different from adding like 3 more episodes, right?
Uh-huh.
I feel like with the pace we were going, it would have felt repetitive, right? Like we would have been repeating plot points. Like it would have been dealing like more and more repetitive ways with Bix's trauma than ways that they've already communicated us.
Right.
Or
How much more of
repeated
Andor
way. Yeah,
being so
arguing,
resistant to joining
Yeah.
the resistance can we?
or
Yeah.
Saul Guerrero
Yeah.
tweaking off the galaxy gas, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, boy,
exactly.
smoking that pen, right?
Bro,
You would
Tony
hit-
Gilroy and his writers' room have their fucking finger on the motherfucking pulse. Because how did they get galaxy gas, literal galaxy gas, into the Andor, bro? And this was started writing before that whole
Read the
epidemic
Rido.
happened, bro. That's crazy,
Read
man.
the
They are
Rido.
on it.
Right,
Can't
what's
even
in us?
think
No, but I think you know, we discussed obviously last week's episodes, and I think that's kind of like the climax, right? The peak of not only Star. You know, we'll talk about Andor specifically. I think those 3 episodes, especially episode 8 about the massacre on Gorman, is kind of
Oh my gosh,
the
dude.
best this show can offer, and kind of like the best that this series has offered ever, right? Or in a long time, right? Or however you want to feel about it.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's hard to follow up with that. But I do, you know, and so I understand, and bringing a story to a close and kind of the culmination of the Andor story as we seen him in the show, I think is a tough what's it called? Tough task to pull off.
follow.
But I think
Yeah.
Alonso Rui Patricio, who directed all 3 of these episodes, and you know, it wasn't Tony or Dan who wrote these episodes, but it was a member of his writing staff, and I'm so sorry for forgetting his name. But I think they did a beautiful job because they wrapped it up perfectly, right? It doesn't feel like, I think that like they managed the time jumps incredibly well. The tension, they tied up loose ends and loose story plot points that might have been left hanging, and then they led perfectly into Rogue One in such a seamless fashion that you're just like, man, they fucking did it, bro. You know, they did this shit, and
I really
just think it's a very high praise for them.
I really want to watch Rogue One, honestly. Again, the first time I
That's what
saw
we
it,
were just talking about.
I was less than coherent, and I think I really want to like actually sit down, watch it, and see how well it flows from like this last episode of Andor into that. I'm intrigued.
Well, it picks
Just
up.
though-
Rogue One picks up right where the last episode leaves off.
Really?
And Luis
Okay.
and I were speaking earlier before we started recording. Rogue One at the time was my bar for Star Wars films. It was so good. I saw it, I think like 3 times in theaters, 4 times, something like that, within the same weekend. I was like, this shit is good, dude. Star Wars has reached a new level. And then for a while they were like, okay, what's going on? We got this like confusion, and that's when we started to feel, okay, we're getting too much studio. It's getting really murky as far as how good Star Wars is. And this brought that feeling right back. Andor has revived something in me that's making me so hyped about the future of Star Wars. But let's talk about what we're currently going on with right now. The cast of this show, outstanding, phenomenal cast. Obviously, some of these characters do carry over to the rest of the story in Rogue One. Some of them don't. Let's talk about our boy Luthen, Stellan Skarsgård, the patriarch of one prominent acting family, I should say. I wouldn't say the most prominent, but you know, them little nepo babies. I mean,
I forgot who I was talking to.
They are doing something.
I forgot who I was talking to, but somebody said they really don't like Lucian, and I never
Luthen?
understood that. Or Luthen? Is it Luthen or is it Lucian?
Luthen. Luthen.
Who is Lucian?
Okay, I've been hearing that horrifically mispronounced.
Fake
I was
fan.
talking to somebody, and they were like, "I don't like Luthen." I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "I don't know. He upsets me." And I'm like, "Yeah, dude. He's like a more stable, put together Saw Gerrera. Like
it's you know it's and I think that's a great point, but that's why this show and Tony Gilroy and his writing team, I think this is why this show is so incredible, because it shows the many different faces of a rebellion, right? When you're in the face of fascism, there is not one way to face that oppression and face that fascism, right? There's going to be a lot of people doing less than favorable things, some things that would be considered by many as bad, right? A lot of people will lose their lives, a lot of stuff will be done, a lot of decisions will be made, and not all of those are quote unquote good, right? But they all serve a purpose, and there's so many different characters, so many different perspectives, so many different people who want freedom and are fighting towards freedom and are going about it in different ways. And it's just kind of like the beauty of this show, right? It shows you the spectrum of resistance, the spectrum of rebellion, and that it's not always clear cut and pretty, right? That there is a lot of gray area even when it comes to resistance. But, and I think Luthen and, like you mentioned, Saw Gerrera are the two perfect examples of the two extremes, you know.
And then you have someone like Mon Mothma, to where even though she's just bankrolling it, it's kind of like more in the middle, right? She knows where her money is going. Yeah, she knows where her money is going is sometimes to do some unfavorable things for the greater good, or like allying herself with Lucian, or with Luthen, right? Or with Luthen, or allying herself with people like, you know, Andor or Saw, right? And different rebellious groups from across the galaxy, just to essentially feed the greater good. When they all come together, right? Her and several other of the senators, right? In those last couple of episodes, like Bail Organa and all of them.
I just want to say, go for it.
You get to see what you know the rebellion as in Star Wars, even when it gets like, you know, the whole Skywalker, like Jesus era, right? You still see them as like this actual organized unit that could feasibly make a dent in this large conglomerate of an empire, basically.
Talking about the rebels and how they look so great, organized, dude.
It's really well set up.
It's incredible seeing, especially if you've played what's it called, Force Unleashed, and seeing how that story, how the rebellion starts in that game, and then seeing how it plays out across season 1 and 2 of Andor going into Rogue One. Dude, this is the backstory we needed, you know.
I agree, and it's like, I want to touch on Luthen really quick. Like, I know he ends up dying, and that's a very powerful moment and impactful moment for the series. But I think it really speaks to kind of like the nature of this show. In my eyes, you know, Luthen and Cassian, you know, drills this home when he's talking to the senators and he's talking to the people on Yavin. But, you know, without him, this would not be possible. You know, he is the reason you are here. He is the reason all of this is possible. And I think there's just something so powerful about his character and his arc, and the fact that whatever his reasons may be, that, you know, regardless of what his decision making was, you know, he did everything in his power, everything that he could, you know, some of it shady, some of it not so much, to bring forth this rebellion, you know. And he said it so beautifully at the end of season 1, you know, I'm fighting for what is it, a sunrise that I will never see, you know.
And we something bigger than myself.
Something bigger than myself, and we see Clea see that, right? She sees the fruits of his labor, of her labor, and she will benefit off it. And it's so powerful, it's so beautiful, and it's so devastating, man. And it's just like, that's what this should mean something to me, you know. To quote Matt,
and this should be, bro. This should, and you know something else, a parallel, if you will. Him talking about the sunrise he'll never see. Every single like trilogy of the Skywalker sagas or whatever involves some type of Tatooine sunrise / sunset, you know. And the main character gets to live out this hopeful moment, and like, oh yeah, shit's bleak, but guess what? There's always tomorrow. For Luthen, it ends at this story, and we don't see his tomorrow. His tomorrow is already been written off. You know, he knows the way, and that's the thing about resisting fascism, bro. There's a very significant chance that you will not make it to the next day, and he understands this. He lives with that every day. I think that can be seen throughout his interactions with every character on screen, be it with Bix, Cassian, Mon, all of them. And I'm like, flowers to Stellan, bro. Big flowers.
But fighting said fascism and kind of the, you know, it's like, even if you may not see tomorrow, it is worth it for future generations, because you know, living under a fascistic government is never worth it, right? It's more worth losing my life.
We're not doing it.
It's more worth losing my life, right, and being a martyr than it is to live under such conditions. So it's just very powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Speaking of the fascists and the big bads, gotta glaze my goat, Ben Mendelsohn. I don't think I've seen anything like, I've seen him in bad projects, but him acting has never been bad. Like
no, he's great in everything.
That one movie I watched forever ago, what's it called? Robin Hood, Dookie movie, Dookie caca trash. But he was
Taron
fantastic.
Egerton?
Yeah.
This is the Jamie Foxx one.
Yeah, they had
Oh,
Muslim Jamie Foxx. He said, "Inshallah," and I was like, "Nah, bro, you just don't do that. Don't do that." But Ben was cooking. Same thing with Secret Invasion, bullshit show. But he was cooking, and he cooks in the little bit of appearances he has in Andor. We've already got to spend time with Krennic in Rogue One, so we know what kind of menace he is. We know how threatening and what his role is in the Star Wars universe. But seeing him prior to that was also great. Krennic, Mendelsohn, elite performance. I don't know what the fuck them little red and blue things mean on his shirt. Them little Monopoly.
It designates his rank within the.
I know that, but like, what is his rank? What does that mean?
So what?
Isn't he a general Krennic?
I think he's director, but
director. Yeah,
but yeah, this one he's director Krennic. Yeah.
So actually, a bit of lore. So basically, each square on there is a single gusher. As you can see by the amount of red
Stop, they're gonna
gushers he
cook your ass and
possesses.
call you a dumbass and say you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, they're gonna.
As you can see, he has damn near an entire pack of 12 gushers to himself, meaning he owns at least one pantry, while most lower ranks on the Death Star have just a shelf. So, a little bit of Star Wars knowledge for you there.
Yeah,
anyways,
I like to use this time to talk about this picture of Krennic and just the conversation about Krennic, to kind of talk about the Empire as a whole and all the characters that we see that belong to the Empire kind of in these final episodes of Andor. You know, like Young, the informant who worked for the ISB, you know, kind of like the end that he met is, you know, really attached to Luthen. And it's just seeing those little things about how someone who was kind of coerced into being an ISB, an informant for Luthen, and i.e. the rebellion, you know, how he meets his end. He ends up dying. He has a wife and a daughter, and, you know, he can't guarantee their safety. But without him, the fact that there is a Death Star would have never been found out. Luthen would have never known, would have never gotten the information to Clea, who then got it to Cassian, who then got it to all the people on Yavin, you know. And it's like those little nuances about, like, you know, these are human beings, right? Regardless of which side you fall on, and all these human beings have wants and needs, and they all, and you know, ultimately we all serve a purpose, right? And regardless of what motivates you to serve said purpose, it's just so incredible, and it's so great to see. You know, Deidre Miro, you know, we finally we see that fascistic bitch get what she deserved, you know, fucking sitting behind bars, you know, and it's just like
smoking Deidre Pack.
And it's like even seeing her and her journey and what happened, you know, much like Cyril, you know, she kind of spent her whole professional life trying to find Axis and being a good girl for the Empire, and even that backfired. She got called a fucking rebel spy by Krennic. You know, they spit in her fucking face, and that's just kind of like indicative of like you spend your whole life trying to impress, you're these overlords, and at the end of the day, they just chew you up, and spit you the fuck out. It's just like, it's just so. I will continue to say this, and I know it's repetitive, but it's like it's so smart and it's so powerful, and these fucking writers, man, they really know what the fuck they're doing. It was just incredible to see.
They don't miss. Where do you go?
Oh yeah, and Ben Mendelsohn rocks. What else is there to say?
Now,
I
I
mean-
think Ben Mendelsohn goes too hard because it was not until Matt mentioned it that I remembered he was in Secret Invasion. And now that, like, as much as I want to, like, bring this show down a peg just because I remember it's Secret Invasion, man, Ben Mendelsohn, I might have treated Secret Invasion too harshly.
No. Listen, treat Secret Invasion harshly.
Not
But we
harshly
can acknowledge that Ben is the one shining light in that whole show.
Yeah, that's good.
The thing
That-
with, the
actually,
thing
yeah,
with
good
Ben's character, TLOU, we saw him in and not to get onto a Marvel tangent, but we saw him in what's it called, Captain Marvel. So we know he exists. He's in was he in the Marvels? I can't remember.
No.
That movie
Nah.
kind of flowed through my brain. But I know he's appeared in other projects before, and it's just the fact that it's Ben Mendelsohn, bro. He's so freaking good. Like I have nothing bad to say about Ben at all. And
I also
and
like
Rogue One's my introduction to Ben Mendelsohn, so that's where my bar was already set high as hell.
what is the name of the he's not a director or chairman.
Partagas.
Partagas, the like
I was
one-
gonna mention him too.
The one who
good.
Hitler's himself in the brief room. Yeah,
Incredible.
that guy. I love how he moves through this prestige and this bravado that he lloyds over everybody under him. He talks down to people constantly,
Especially
and really driving.
Middle 6
Yeah.
episodes, he cooks.
Yeah, and it really drives home like the fact that this even though this is a serious like government organization and they're tasked with essentially like securing the borders of the empire and all that, right? And furthering the emperor's wants and needs.
Not the space.
They
ice.
are at their core like just a bunch of like sniveling, climbing, cowardly socialites, and when like just absolute fucking stool pigeons through and through. And to see his entire facade crumble when he realizes that he's going to be a part of like being the fall guy for the whole Death Star debacle leaking, right?
Got him.
He knows that whatever he's going to face under Palpatine and under those like torture droids is going to be way worse. So he's just like, yeah, just give me a moment alone. I just want to be alone with my thoughts.
No,
myself.
I was going to say something about that. Thank you for bringing that up. It's a very good point. I was going to say the fact that we see, all these characters who belong to or part of the Empire that we've been keeping track of. Cyril, Partagas, Deidre, Young. They all meet kind of, terrible ends. They die. They get locked up in prison, and it's like, I think there's something so incredibly hopeful about that. And I think that's intentional. I think it's pretty obvious and pretty well aware, like how Tony Gilroy feels about this and like what his politics are. But I think there's something very obvious about the fact that he made these Imperial characters meet terrible ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
They give their whole life over to this thing, to this idea, to this machine. And try as they might, it was never enough. And these motherfuckers are so evil that they're even gonna kill. It could cost you your life.
Exactly. You don't even have to be like the good guy that takes down the Imperial. You don't have to see them like shot on screen or whatever. It is ultimately their demise is brought by themselves. Like
Exactly.
Cyril, for example, spent his whole life chasing Andor. He beats the dog shit out of this man. He's got him dead to rights at the end of a blaster. And with his last breath of what could possibly be the end of his life, Andor says, "Who are you?" and shatters everything that man is about.
Yeah, Deidre Miro, she gets called a rebel spy simply because she was trying to do her job and find access, and she came across Death Star plans that she was not meant to see. And because of that, entity, the very structure that she had dedicated her whole life to, turned its back on her, deemed her an enemy, and put her behind bars for the rest of her life because she was doing her job. Same thing with Partagaz. He was trying to assist Deidre in doing her job to find Axis, which is what they wanted to do. They're trying to do their part to help the Empire and crush this rebellion. And yet, because he did so, and because they found the Death Star plans, which are then leaked, it was all for naught. You know, you try to do your job, and ultimately means nothing because these. I don't know. It's incredible. It's just so good. You know, it's so incredible. And that's the thing about good writing and good performing is that even though these are evil motherfuckers, these are bad characters, these aren't good guys. There is some sort of you kind of do empathize with them. You feel for them, right? In a sense, and that's great storytelling, right? That's great storytelling to make you empathize and feel for the people who are objectively on the wrong side, right? And it's just incredible.
I saw to tack onto that. I saw something on Reddit the other day. Goddamn Reddit, Jesus, ugly as hell. I saw something on Reddit the other day. They're talking about how like the ghosts of the Empire, you know, the people who've worked their whole lives thinking they're serving this great purpose, and they end up dying in horrific ways on behalf of on behalf of the Empire and by the Empire. For example, Scarif, where they were doing the whole Death Star testing and everything. Krennic has gone his entire life in the Imperial forces, ranked up, and now he's the director of the Death Star project. Just to have the very thing he helped create to be his undoing. The amount of people who brought their families and friends and whatever to Scarif to help, you know, get their shit together for the Death Star. All of them wasted in an instant.
Yeah,
and you know that shit
like
was
nothing.
almost like that.
It's
So
like I'm
if you
saying.
think
It's like I
about it-
said. It's all for naught. You know, it's very overt, and Tony Gilroy is being very obvious about what he's trying to say about these characters and these people like them. Right? It's not. He's not sugarcoating it, but it's, you know, it's true, and it's true to life, and it's powerful, and it's important, and it's impactful.
And there was one profound thing I saw. I'm gonna use this as our ending point before we do our ratings, but this profound thing I saw the other day that said basically, you know, fascism doesn't just destroy the good people that are under its boot; it destroys the people who created it too. You know, it eats itself from the inside. It's you think you're in charge of this fascistic machine. Eventually, it's going to turn on you.
Yeah.
So you got to choose. You got to make a decision right now. Where do you want to be? Where do you want your name to be etched in the history books? You're gonna be on the side of the oppressor or the side of the oppressed. And the oppressed will always find a way to fight through whatever oppression's coming our way. Rebellions are built on hope. That is something that this Andor preaches. That's something that Rogue One preaches. Like it's the core basis of Star Wars. There's always hope.
Yeah.
Hell, episode 4, A New Hope.
Before we move on and before we end this, I do want to talk obviously about Cassian Andor and Diego Luna. I think we have to. You know, it's like I think obviously his journey has been incredible. It's been one of the best things I think we've seen, not just in Star Wars, but I think in just IP storytelling and maybe even just storytelling in general. I think it was an amalgamation of a lot of things that came together beautiful. Diego Luna being an incredible actor, Tony Gilroy being an incredible filmmaker, and just both of their commitment to telling this story and this character story. I think Cassian has unequivocally become one of the kind of like greatest characters in Star Wars history in my eyes, and obviously I'm biased, and so this opinion you may hold no weight whatsoever. But I think he's such an incredible character. I think he's what Han could have or should have been. You know, something kind of like a scoundrel, but that's a little bit more nuanced. There's some kind of darkness to him, and I think, you know, the way that he's such an important character in the lore, in the history of this universe. You know, without him, there is no
episode 4.
No episode 4. There is no original trilogy. You know, there is no, and he's such, not only does he serve as kind of a connective tissue between the prequels and the original trilogy, but he also works to kind of enhance it, right, and make something more. Who would have thought that we would have got some of the greatest Star Wars storytelling ever out of the story of stealing the Death Star plans? That's how this originated, and because of that, we got Rogue One, and we got 2 seasons of Andor, and we got one of the greatest characters in Star Wars history, And so it's incredible to see. I love how important he's become. I love kind of like his growth and as a character, and it's been such a joy and such a pleasure being a part of his arc for these 10 years now.
2016 to
Rogue
now,
One
so
is
roughly,
when Rogue One came out. Yeah,
roughly 9-10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, Andor, Cassian's the face of the rebellion to me. Like you have your Han Solo and Leia Organa, Bail, all these folks. Mon Mothma, also a prominent. Real quick shout out to Genevieve O'Reilly. She's been playing Mon Mothma since
incredible.
2000. She's been doing this role justice. Elite performance. That speech she gave in episode 9.
9.
She don't miss, bro. That shit was so good. I was like, yeah, you know what? We need to blast this on the speaker across.
Did it feel reminiscent to y'all about like kind of like the like a mirror to like Padme's speech, where she's like, "This is how freedom dies."
Yeah.
No,
I think that's kind of intentional.
Not with silence, but thunders and applause. I like that parallel. I thought that was really good.
Mm-hmm. I thought that was really nice. How liberty dies with thunderous applause. Yeah.
Also, that's the first Shadow of the Rebellion.
The face of the rebellion, bro. Like, if you can't have the rebels without Cassian. You can't have any of these, like you said, any of the original trilogy, and consequently, you can't have the sequel trilogy without Cassian.
Exactly. I was talking to Gerardo when the episode came out about how there's one thing that I was kind of like pushing against. I was like, is the fact that they made him kind of like how in Marvel there's what are those characters called? They're very important in every timeline, regardless of the timeline.
A Nexus being.
They kind of made Aunt Cassian a Nexus being in the sense. When he goes to the Force healer and she talks about how he's very important and and he's a messenger, right? And it's like they kind of cemented his importance via and through the Force. That kind of like pseudo messianic exactly.
And
Tony Gilroy himself has said Cassian is a messianic figure, so that's we're not to be surprised by this. Tony Gilroy himself has said this, but that was kind of the only thing about kind of Cassian's arc that I was just kind of like, I think we could have taken him to the Force or whatever, and she could have made him maybe believe in the Force. But like making him kind of an agent of the Force, and being like this, like his destiny was predetermined, as opposed to something that came about because of the decisions he made. And he was just a regular guy that, because of his tenacity and kind of his willingness to believe in something bigger and larger than himself, despite his flaws, became such an important hero in the rebellion. I think kind of cheapens it for me a little bit, but I get it. Whatever. It's just very kind of like Christ-like messianic religious kind of allegory, and I understand it. But if I were to change anything, it would be that, just to kind of give some pushback on something that the show did, on a show that we otherwise I think is universally loved by all of us.
I slightly disagree, simply because
fair.
This is Cass's first real encounter with any Force user, and it's not even a Force user encounter. Honestly, she could be bullshitting him for all he knows. But in the story in Rogue One, he has a Chirrut, and there are no Force users in this movie. There's no lightsabers being swung around outside of Vader. That doesn't count. But Chirrut is the only other Force user that is in Rogue One. And that's one of the things we talk about. Like, they managed to tell a story without going around having a flurry of lightsaber battles. They have no throwing objects with the Force, etc., doing these visions and all this shit.
Exactly.
I think having the Force healer interact with Cassian starts to shake his core beliefs about the world, about the galaxy, about how things function. There's either right or wrong. There's the soldiers, there's those who give orders, etc. And like now he has this new element. Like, he's obviously doubting the Force, but her telling him whatever he saw in that vision, whatever she told him, obviously it's planted a seed. And we'll see that we'll see that over the time.
Yeah, it makes his opening up to Donnie Yen's character in Rogue One, I guess, like much more plausible. You're like, oh, okay, of course. He's already been presented with this idea of the Force and it being kind of this thing greater than him. And, you know, so, and I get it. I understand. Like I said, I would have probably just tweaked it a little bit and been like, oh, look, the Force, it's strong in you and it runs through all of us. And it's whatever, as opposed to being like, you're a messenger. You were put here specifically to whatever the fuck, you know, and I get it. It's Star Wars mumbo jumbo. I understand.
It goes for a bit of a soft approach, but I agree with Luis. It can appear a little bit heavy-handed. I kind of see both sides a little bit. I really do think that just goes to show, though, with how like little Force related, you know, Jedi wisdom, kind of light dark bullshit that they normally have in Star Wars, like with how little that they put in this show. It just goes to show, I think, is a credit to Tony Gilroy for making this shit 2 seasons. Because I guarantee you, if we made it to maybe like halfway through a 3rd season, if they went with this type of release, we would have definitely been seeing like at least one lightsaber or like some like flash in the future. Like this would have been hammered around.
Not even like a lightsaber. We'll see like one of those like, you know, refugee Jedi from Order 66 running around still doing shit with the Force.
Exactly.
He comes across.
Would have seen a South African Jedi.
Man, get them niggas out of here, bro. Cal.
South African Jedi, you said.
My ass. Hell no.
But yeah, you would see just all these like little like member berries and little like jingling keys that would cheapen what the core of the product is. And what we got with Andor is something special, because I've never been able to like watch an IP thing and then forget that it's based off that IP as many times as I did with this. So I would genuinely have to rate this a 10 out of 10. I think the nitpicks that I have are far too small to see how it concludes, to see what Star Wars of all fucking things, the Space Wizard fucking epic.
Strong agree.
Sorry, I had to say sorry a couple more things before I give my rating. I know just because it's a lot to cover, and I know we got more stuff to go to, but I just also want to say like I also really like the ending. You know, the fact I thought that was the end we were gonna see of Bix, and to see her, you know, in the wheat field holding a baby. You know, I think it's just and us knowing kind of like what's coming for Cassian and what awaits him. I think it's such such powerful imagery, and it's so beautiful. And you know, as a joke, there's a meme on Twitter, or people talking on Twitter saying that what if this is Poe Dameron's father? Poe is actually Bix and Cassian's son. And as stupid as it is, and I think he's too.
It technically could be.
Poe is younger, I think. I think Poe was born after Yavin, the inception of Yavin or whatever. But I just thought it was a funny little like funny little joke.
Graham would shed some light.
Yeah,
because if you think about the time frame between episode 6 and episode 7,
what is it, like 15 years or something?
I think so.
Yeah, he could. No,
it's more. It's more. It's like 40 years or something like that. 50.
Because Luke is what? How old is Luke? And at the end of Luke is what? 20 something at the end of episode 6.
He's like in his 30s.
He's probably like
in his
30s. No, because he was what, 18 in episode.
Oh, yeah, okay. So it's been like 50 years.
He's like 22, 23, maybe
so
26.
I think it's 50 years, something like that.
He's probably like 60, 70 years old.
I forgot. There is a
Poe's like
web of information. I can just figure this out.
I know. We can just Google this shit.
So he was
I'll Google it. Y'all keep going. I'm just gonna Google this.
When was Poe Dameron born?
No. I just thought it was funny. I'm not claiming the validity of this claim. Obviously, I don't. It's not true. But I just think it was a funny thing to mention. But no, I think that's I had to mention kind of like that beautiful image of, you know, like and that sacrifice that Biggs had to make in order for Cassian to follow in his destiny, you know, and bring about the downfall of the Empire, right? But in doing so, sacrificing a life with Biggs and his child. But they would not have been able to enjoy the peace that his sacrifice then granted them. You know, much paralleling Luthen's arc in a sense. You know, so it's just it's so good, man. It's so They hit the nail on the head, bro. It's beautiful.
So
That's just a bigger, a bigger theme too across all of Star Wars. How many characters can we name that have had to sacrifice something
That are
to,
selfless, yeah.
You know, how many people have done? I don't want to get into it too deep because it's going to be a long list of characters. But
Yeah, exactly.
there's so many different characters across the entire greatest Star Wars universe who've given up their lives or given up the life they could have for the greater good. And I think that's back to what we said earlier about fighting fascism. You know, you can't just fight it with words. You can't just fight it with thoughts. You actually have to be willing to sacrifice. What are you willing to give up to make sure that there's a brighter tomorrow for everybody else, even if it means you don't get to see it tomorrow? So that's all I got.
I'll give Andor. You guys rated it already, right? I'll give it a 15 out of 10. It's incredible. It's beautiful. It's perfection. It is the best thing
valid
from Star Wars since
I agree.
Return of the Jedi. Probably even all time. Suck my fucking dick.
No, since Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi.
Sorry, I meant Empire. My bad. Since this is a trilogy in itself, season 1, season 2, and Rogue One are a trilogy. Is the best trilogy in Star Wars history. It's a 15 out of 10.
This man made 4 trilogies, and you idiots can't do one.
I'll take it one step further and say it's the greatest any IP that we've seen. And mind you, we've seen the Penguin.
I agree.
We've seen all types of other stuff the last 2 years, 3 years we've been doing this podcast. Andor is the most well-written, most cohesive,
most beautifully shot, the best production design. Yes, most engaging.
There's nothing bad. There's nothing bad. Go watch Kenobi, then go watch Andor. Tell me.
Okay, yeah.
Go watch
The Acolyte.
The Ascolite, and then go watch this.
I forgot that happened. Wow,
no shade to the actors in there. They I don't. That's not what I'm talking about. This shit, bro. This shit means something to me, man.
The fight choreo is awesome. I like the Acolyte, but come on, there's hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby.
2 hydrogen bombs because you got season 1 and 2.
The special effects they do on K is probably some of my favorite work they do in the show. Because just seeing him ragdoll people,
big ups Alan Tudyk, bro.
Bro was kicking niggas across the field, bro.
He's like, "I've cleared the path. You're welcome." I love this guy, dude. It's a shame he's no longer with us, but I love
elite cinema. No negative marks. Just nah. There's no way there's any other show can beat this right now, bro. We got how many shows for the rest of this year, and all of them are probably not going to reach this mark at all. I don't know.
They really won't. I think
exceeded expectations.
I think truly that this is probably one of the few times we'll see a show of this caliber. Not to diminish the next show we're talking about, though. I think it's still going pretty strong. The Last of Us. The Last of Us is happy. Wait, and is it good? Are people watching it? I think people are watching it. Is that our next topic, Matt? Because you seem confused. Okay, you're finding.
There we go. He's waiting for you to.
I was actually going to transition to Superman. I was trying to transition to Superman, but you said The Last of Us. All right.
So you have to navigate through it.
Yeah.
Oh.
We can talk about The Last of Us.
We're professionals here, folks.
Yeah, we know what we're doing.
Donate to our Patreon. Send the money through the Zelle so we can do this professionally for real.
Yeah, we'll show graphics.
But
I didn't say that.
I'm gonna be honest. We're much like just anybody else would be in an apocalypse. Ellie's
crashing.
Ellie's she's having a rough go of it, man. She is. She's gone full YN, as it were. She has a little thing in this episode that I can only describe as all women eventually become their parents. All people eventually become their parents. She became Joel. And she became her dad in a way that
She became Jolene.
I think
it was
nice.
I think that scene was so intense, and I think just how they don't beat you over the head. Portugal
No pun intended.
how they do. I didn't even
very
mean to. Yeah,
intended.
that was a legitimate
That
Freudian.
was good. That was good.
But the way that they don't
was
just
very
like try
good.
to like really drill this whole idea into you that Ellie is becoming more wrathful or more vengeful with some over grandiose way of her arguing with fucking Dina or her like having like a schizophrenic episode or whatever. They just do one little thing at the very end of her in a flashback or something. I don't know what's going on there, but it's just her waking up as she has bashed this woman to pieces.
Yeah,
She
I
goes
think
into her happy place, and then Joel just walks in and is like, "Welcome, kiddo," and it's like, "Hi."
Beautiful ending.
Oh my god!
I said this last week, and I'll say it again about this week's
Mhm.
episode as well, or this most recent week's episode. Is that I think it took a while, but I think we're finally there. I think
stride, yeah.
I think people have complained about Ellie's characterization, right? And I don't think that's
Agreed.
not. I mean, I don't think that's I kind of agree, and that has nothing to do with Bella Ramsey. I think they're an incredible actor. I think they're phenomenal. I think they're really good. But I think kind of the fact that Ellie was still kind of childish or kind of a lot less downtrodden than she was in the second game, I think was good criticism. But I had mentioned it before, and I think it stands true. I think it's because they're slow rolling out her transformation into kind of this cold, heartless,
Right.
vicious killer that we know her in the second game. She kind of just starts off that way, right? And I think the TV show and the creators made a choice to be like, well, we need to see her loss of innocence, right? We need to see Joel's death trigger something in her, but it's still her. She's not faced. And then we need to see her change once she's faced with the reality of that changed her life, right? She can say she wants to chase these people. When she finally sees Abby's crew, what will she do? And that's what changes her, right? The fact that she makes these decisions to hurt these people, right? Violence begets violence. And how will that ultimately change and affect her? And we'll see that change. By the end of the season, she's going to be a completely different character from the Ellie that we knew in episodes 1 and 2 and 3, right? And so I think it took a while, but and like I said before, it's television, so it's going to be a slow rollout. You just have to be patient. But I think the show's finally hitting its stride, But I really liked him, and I think we're finally getting the perfect balance of action, narrative, character building that I think character relationships that I think is what makes this show so good, right? And what made the game so good as well.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you, Luis. I think this show is getting into a position to where it's really like it already had kind of its identity, right? It not even just as an established IP with people who play the games and everything, but that first season, it kind of had this tone. And as opposed to where I said something like Andor was, benefiting from its brevity, right? I believe the contrary is true with The Last of Us. That extending that second part through these, they said they were trying to do like a total of like 5 seasons.
No, I think I was wrong. I think it's like 3.
Three
So,
seasons.
yeah.
Still stretching it past like the whole confinement of 1 season is an excellent choice, because that way you get to see more of that evolution, that progression. Because while we, can follow season 1 of Joel and we can pretty much know what he's about, Ellie is still she's a person who is not made by just the circumstances like Joel was, like how he was made by having to grow up in our just normal everyday average society and become like a horrible monstrous person. Ellie was already in this hardened terrible society, but managed to still keep her softness,
her humanity,
to keep
right?
her humanity,
Which
right?
we're
Like
watching
her
her
levity.
lose.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And
Yeah,
I
that's
think it's
Yeah.
really showing in this episode in particular how more and more times we see her kind of spacing out. She's kind of not necessarily snapping at Dina a little bit more, but getting a little bit shorter with her. on certain things.
I mean, I think it's
Right,
more
and then hire
that
more
that
direct, but that's
yeah.
mainly
more
because
direct,
like
yeah.
they now have this relationship. Also, she's expecting a child. Like I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it would be like, okay, look, you don't need to come with me on this essentially a suicide mission. When you're
Yeah,
about
and
to-
I think, and I was saying how like that I feel like is going to be really well explored more so in the show than in the game, because the last time that Ellie had like anything left to lose, she saw her father essentially beaten to death and killed right in front of
Mhm.
her, right? And now she's lost all. She's like, I don't got nothing else. But now she not only has a girl, right, but she also has a baby on the way.
Right.
Yup.
She has more and more to lose. And she's already
But-
tipped herself over in that edge by beating that woman to death
I was gonna say, but
with a
but
blunt
here's the
object.
thing. But
And
here's the thing.
so
I'll go for it.
I feel. Oh, I was saying, giving her more to lose, right? While also having her go more and more over the deep end in order to get revenge, right? I feel like is going to be a really neat character progression to see, because we're going to see not only how far she'll go for vengeance, but also how far she can justify, no, I'm doing this to protect you. I'm doing this because I'm trying to help you,
Mhm.
right? I want to
Right.
protect you. I'm
Or
trying
how
to do this.
selfish she's being, because I think
Exactly.
that's presented very, very, I think, neatly in the show, right? When they
Mhm.
get attacked by the Seraphites in the
Mhm.
park, right?
Yeah.
She has Jesse and Dina go run off. They go back to the theater and they kind of separate, right? She's then presented with the decision: go back and try to find Jesse and Dina, or proceed forward by myself to the hospital where I know Nora is at. And at that point, everything about her being with Dina having a baby, them wanting to spend their lives together, all that's thrown out the window, right? The only thing she can think about is what's right in front of her. Nora, she's right there. This is what they did to Joel. She's indulging in kind of this selfish action, right? And which is completely and totally justifiable to her, right? And so seeing that, right, and I think Bella Ramsey did just such an incredible job. I know, fuck all the people who like try to clown her on social media, them on social media and stuff, but I think the scene where Ellie's holding the gun to Nora, right, and she's kind of threatening her, and at the very end where she starts beating her with a lead pipe, I think they're incredible in those scenes. I think they really channel this anger and this kind of and this yeah, I don't know. They just do such a good job, and I think they're really making that distinction very obvious, but very what's it called?
Subtle.
Subtle. Yes,
Like
very
a
obvious,
good
very
mixture,
very
a good
subtle.
blend.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's one of the things we talked about before. You know, the real pandemic, the real virus is not the cordyceps. It's the way that this whole apocalypse has been changing people over time. That's why things like Jackson, Wyoming it's beautiful. It's rare and beautiful to see a community that's actually a community. Everyone's basically every man for themselves, whether you're a Firefly, a fucking wolf, Seraphite, Fedra, all of you motherfuckers, they're all doing all types of evil, villainous shit. And they justify like, oh, I'm doing this for the greater good. Oh, I'm doing this to protect the man next to me. I'm doing this because blah, 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 blah. Bro, y'all all doing some horrible shit. And Ellie is not, free from that group. Joel has done terrible shit.
Yeah, she's no different.
She's no different at all. And this is where we see more of that. Season 1 was basically like her tiptoeing into the waters of this lifestyle, this world, and that Joel has introduced her within the first episode of them leaving from the QZ. He beats the shit out of the guy to death, and that's like her first taste of violence, And of course, as we go through the rest of season 1, all types of shit happens. We meet all different characters where someone has to make a decision. She shot that one dude when they were in where's the place where that bullshit team the Chiefs play? Kansas City. She's done all types of stuff in season 1 alone. That's not even to tell you what happened between season 1 and 2, and the time frame from season 2, Joel dying, and then where we are now in the storyline. There's a lot that's happened to Ellie. Ellie's not the same character we left off with at the end of season 1, and that's the one big thing.
Similar but not the same. Yeah.
Yeah. There's the same but different. Same shirt, different color. I don't know. Whatever. Same
I do.
story, different page.
And I know I'm in the minority when I say this, but I like their expansion of Dina's lore. In the game, we don't really. I don't remember if we do or don't find out basically what her life was before Jackson, but I like that they gave Ellie and Dina this moment to kind of come closer in the midst of it all. You know, I know a lot of people feel like the time is very compressed in this season, and I tend to agree. I think that is an issue with the show. It all seems to be happening very fast, but they have a lot of story to get through, and only about a season and a half left to do so. So I understand, but I think little moments like that, I think, kind of help. You know, build. They're taking parts out of the game, which I understand frustrates people, but I think they're making up for it by putting something like Dina's backstory in there. I would just also say that one thing I do think is a problem that really does bother me, and I think is a valid criticism before we move on, is that because we've said nothing but positive things about the show, I think the art direction is a huge problem. I've heard people talk about this. I think it's absolutely true. For example, the scene where they kill Joel, it's like brightly lit, and it just seems it's jarring. We see the severity of the situation, but the lighting and the filmmaking doesn't seem to convey that same tone or feel, right? And I think people are complaining about like how clean everybody looks and how beautiful and what's it called? And not unkempt everybody looks. And I think that is very valid criticism. I think the art direction is a huge problem in the show. It all seems just kind of manufactured and bright and kind of fake. And I don't know if it was a budget issue or what, but that is something that I think does take a bit away from the show. It's losing kind of like the griminess and the dirtiness and the lived-in
I think
that you kind of get in the game.
I think it's kind of working, at least for me, because like I think the wolves, right, are sufficiently like kind of basic, right, kind of rugged, kind of gross. They're just using like old Fedra gear, and most of those guys are dead, so they definitely just got corpse fashion, right? Seraphites, they make their clothes, you know, so they're just all like rags or like basically burlap and shit. I feel like the only people with really like decent kind of kind of like secondhand thrift or like up in an attic kind of style clothes of people in Jackson, because they're more, I don't want to say more civilized, it feels rude. These people don't exist. Let's say more civilized, but more well-to-do, you know, more like modern in fashion, I'd say. But I will say one big part of this show that I'm really digging is the way they're taking aspects of the games and then flipping them. Mainly the spores. The spores being a late game inclusion is awesome. I really like that.
It being an evolution is really cool.
Yeah, because if they started outright with the spores, this show would not be happening. Season 1 would have been it. Actually, the first 10 minutes of season 1, where Joel's daughter dies, would have been it, and then nothing. But seeing how it evolves and adapts, right, to where it not only makes things like bloaters to spread it, right, but putting spores and making it in the air. Oh my god, I love that. Here's to hoping that I see the Rat King soon, though.
I saw a complaint about that,
Rat King.
That very same thing. I think people were like, well, the writers, it being a late edition is because the writers realized that they need this device in order to have a Nora scene. And I mean, I kind of disagree. You know, I think you could have had her get bit, and then Ellie could have still ultimately ended up killing her or whatever, or fractured a leg or whatever, broken her ankle, whatever the fuck, you know. And so I don't think it was necessarily, ultimately necessary in order for them to be able to tell that part of Ellie's story. But I think they probably realized, well, this is such an iconic moment in the game. You know, it's Nora realizes that Ellie's immune while she's dying, and then Ellie still adds insult to injury by beating her to death with a lead pipe. I think they kind of realized, well, that, you know, that's kind of cool. It would be cool if we could have it. Nothing's preventing us from not putting it in the show. We'll just have it be that it's an evolution as most viruses and kind of things of that nature tend to do, it'll just be a natural progression. I thought it was fine. I thought it worked. I think people need to calm the fuck down.
I think it's great because if you think about the decisions being made on the show, the liberties being taken on the show, it works perfectly. The cordyceps, this epidemic is changing people. Why not have the virus itself change too? Why let it just be stagnant? The whole idea of zombies biting one person to the next, like that's all they can do. I'm like, oh shit, okay, cool. I'll put on some fucking chainmail. Now I'm never gonna be a zombie. But when you introduce something that's like you can't avoid this shit, bro, you gotta figure that out. You gotta put on a mask or whatever.
It's a thing that happens all the time in evolution, and with how many different stages of infection there are, where it goes from just like runner to stalker to clicker to bloater to, if it's really bad and you're all together rat king, but most of you just become like a fungal hive, right? Because this thing is so fast acting and so well adapted to where it's the only species of the cordyceps fungus that can adapt to human mammals, right? I'm not surprised that after 25 fucking years of being around doing terrible shit, that it's just like, hey, what if I try this? Because it doesn't seem like my original plan's working.
Shit, if the fucking virus itself the fungus itself can mutate and evolve, and we have different types of infected, why the fuck can't the mode of transmission also change and evolve? I don't know. I think it's all
these fucking Resident Evil extras walking around, and you're drawing the line at spores.
Exactly.
All right, pal.
And in the behind the episode, Craig Mazin talked about the spores, and he said that it's actually limited to only like caverns and like basements, somewhere where it's dark and moist, damp areas. Exactly. And I think that's very smart. And a lot of it has to do with practicality, right? You don't want to have your characters in gas masks the entire episode, where it's hard to communicate, where it's hard for us to see the acting, it's harder for us to hear the talking and stuff like that. So I understand the practical use of it. And I understand the actual limitations, budgetary, whatever. Like, it's fine. That's what happens with adaptation, right? And I just thought it was a smart workaround, and people need to shut the fuck up and grow up.
It's also limited. It's also limited to in-world logic, bro. There's no fucking companies that can make masks right now. If let's say this did become to where it's outside of the little damp, quiet, dark areas, the whole team it's fucked. It's over. It's over. There's nothing you can do. It adds a level of intensity to the show. Too.
It's just Ellie until she gets eaten.
Let's say y'all are stalking through some building trying to find some shit, and all of a sudden one of you starts coughing out of nowhere. Like, bro, where'd that come from? Shoot that nigga, bro. It's over. Like, you know what I mean? It adds another layer of just despair, if you will. Yeah. For so far, especially when they showed Jackson, I was like, okay, there's hope. This shit's nice. Even though everything's kind of crap right now, it is still some positivity. This is just bringing us back to that dark despair feeling. I feel like, oh shit, now what? And mind you, I haven't played game 2. Like I said before, like I've said for every episode of our coverage of season 2, I haven't played game 2. I still haven't played game 2. I have a job, so I don't think I will play game 2 until maybe in the summertime, after the show's finished. But
it's like 30 hours. You're not missing much.
Okay, it's a lot, I'll do an hour a day. I'll do an hour a day. We'll be good. We'll make it.
You have 2 years to finish the whole game, because we're not going to see all of it in the first season. You'll be fine. I mean, the second season.
True.
I think from what we've seen, I want to give this episode a good 8.5. Step in the right direction. It didn't blow me away, but it's a step in the right direction.
I agree. I think it was worse than I liked last week's episode much better. But I think there's some really cool moments. I like it. Like you said, I like the direction we're going.
A lot of good setups.
A lot of good setups. Yeah, good set pieces. Exactly. I thought the filmmaking was pretty good. I'll give it an 8.
Agreed. I'm right on the same page with y'all. 8 to 8.5, especially that last scene with Ellie and Nora. I think that's what brought it up for me, because like you see a switch flip in Bella Ramsey's performance with that scene. I was like, oh yeah, we're cooking with grease.
Yeah, and I think they've been holding them back as a performer, and that scene really let them free.
Agreed. I think the previous episode was a great contrast too, because we have Ellie being the sweet, caring, musically inclined person singing that cover of "Take on Me," Very beautiful, by the way. I've been looking for it on Spotify. I can't find it.
Mhm.
And then you switch to this episode where we see that brief glimpse of Joel and Ellie. I'm like, oh yeah, she's kind of a scary character right now, you know. So I'm excited to see how things go forward.
Yeah.
Big shout out to my boy Young Mazzino, Jesse. He
Hey,
got a
big
cool
ups,
ass
Young.
name. Got a cool ass name, Young Mazzino. That sounds like I don't know. That's so cool.
I really think that we're in for a big treat because we're seeing a lot of evil people in this show. It truly, this world has no Boy Scouts. Unlike the DCU, which recently released a trailer for our big blue Boy Scout himself.
Let's go.
Nice.
Let's
Look
go,
at my
baby.
beautiful boy. Look at
Talk
him.
to him. Talk to him.
Look
Go
at
back.
David
Go back.
Sweat. He looks so
Go.
goddamn
Go
cool.
back. Go
So,
back.
oh
Oh
in
my
case you didn't
god.
know,
Gentlemen,
the Superman trailer dropped.
We got him.
Oh my god. I
Bro.
have never been
Let me-
this hyped for a DC film in my
Let me
life.
glaze. Let me glaze real quick. Let me.
Oh, so y'all
for
like
those of
y'all
you-
like the trailer?
For those of you who are new to
Oh,
our
yeah.
channel, and for those of you who are not new to our channel, as you know, we said David Cornstalk was going to be Superman about 2 years ago in like December.
I think
It
it
was-
was one of
we
the very
called-
first episodes of the podcast.
It was our third episode in the podcast. I think James Gunn had just been announced as the head of DC, and prior to that, we were already speculating like who's going to be the next Superman after Cavill. I said David Cornsweat. Luis said David Cornsweat. Lo and behold, it was David Cornsweat, my fucking goat. Let's go. So
We
now
some
we are.
prophets for real.
We've been
Bro.
invested since day one.
This movie
We've been
means
on ball.
This movie means so much to us, bro. I might even, if y'all fucking with us hard, I might even rent out a theater just to have a premiere. I might. I just
We might just have to.
we might have to. We've been on the ball. We were on top of this. At one point we twote James
Honestly,
Gunn every day.
We quote James Gunn.
We twote-
If we just walk into like any AMC right now with Sinestro core jerseys, they'll be like,
Who the fuck?
gentlemen, they'll be like, no. Your
Big
room's
fans.
right over here. They'll
Big
like,
fans,
hit it
big
They're
in-
like big fans.
Big fans. Fucking,
Oh my
fucking
god,
Bob,
Smash Core.
Bob Iger himself will come out to kiss our boots. Actually,
Yeah.
this is
Really?
the thing that
Bob will
happen.
be like, I have this idea. What do you guys think about Sinestro
Yeah.
Con?
I'm
And
like
we'll
Big
say-
Bob. I don't even
Just
call him
what we
Bob. I don't
told-
call him Bob. I call Robert.
Yeah.
Big Rob.
Rob.
We'll be like,
Robbie,
just what we
Big
told
Rob.
you the other 5 times, Big Rob. We don't do no selling out. We just walk off and guitar music plays.
And then I
It's
come
like,
back and I'm
no.
like, actually, I will. I'll take $2 million. I'm
I,
getting ready. Put me in, come in.
I also come back.
Put me in,
because
coach.
I gotta
I'm very
pay
poor.
bills. I gotta
I'm
pay
quite
bills.
poor.
Speaking of paying bills, this movie right here is gonna help DC pay the bills, bro. This shit is gonna be so good. Every single like clip I've seen, every single still shot I've seen, I'm like, yeah, man. I've been waiting for this moment for a good minute. We had to deal with the slog of the Snyderverse from 2013. No disrespect to Man of Steel, because I do have a soft spot for Man of Steel. It is probably the best.
All the disrespect to Man of Steel.
No, it's probably
All
the
of
best of the DCU films. I'm gonna be so real. It's probably the
No.
best of the DCU films. And that's
Suicide
because-
Squad is.
No, that one don't count. That's its own.
Ladies and gentlemen, the
talking
driest
about the Suicide
diarrhea.
Squad?
That's what you're saying basically.
No, you're talking about
saying
the
Man of
Suicide
Steel's
Squad or
the best.
Suicide Squad with
Oh,
David
the
The
Ayer.
James, the
Suicide
James
Squad.
Gunn one. The James Gunn.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's separate. That's totally separate. That's
not-
gotta be
yeah,
separate.
It's not part of this.
But
No,
I'm
it
talking about,
counts.
if you're talking about
Well-
just the Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, Wonder Woman, whatever the hell else,
Woman,
all that shit,
1984.
84, whatever the fuck that movie was, bullshit film. Justice
It's not
League,
good.
Justice League, all that shit is ass. But
But-
Man of Steel is the least ass. It's still ass, still a Dookie burger, but it's a better Dookie burger than the other 6.
But you know
movies.
what's a real hearty meal burger? David Cornsweat.
My
David
God.
Cornsweat's Superman
My
is
God.
is definitely set out to be, because for one, the trailer,
Look at
look at
this
that.
dude.
He's saving a child. Not only is this one of the hardest shots of all time, like genuinely, this is fucking amazing. I don't know if this is like a merge of practical and CG or if it's majority CG. If it is,
No, he actually did that shit.
man.
He is like that, bro.
What I like,
Just- He just do that shit on a daily basis.
What I like the most about this trailer is I think it really lets us know what James Gunn's ultimate vision for like this character and the story is, right? I think it sets a really good template for what to expect from this version of Clark Kent and Superman. and Lois Lane and Lex Luthor. You know, I think it kind of, in the limited time that we get with those characters, I have a pretty good understanding going into this, being like, okay, this is what he's doing. This is what he wants to say, you know?
Especially with the way the interview, that trailer, I love that trailer.
Yep.
Like, it shows her interviewing Clark, but as Superman, and like seeing him switch in and out of Superman and Clark Kent. That's something we haven't seen in a while, bro. We haven't seen that shit since Christopher Reeve, bro. And I'm just excited to see David's performance as Clark, as Superman. Rachel Brosnahan, first of all, fuck the amateur for fridging her ass in that movie so quick.
She dies in like 10 minutes, right?
She literally, I walked into the theater, I sat down, the screen started, and she died like right after I started eating my hot dog. Boo boo, boo boo, caca, boo boo.
And then instead we got 2 hours of fucking
Adrian Brody.
No. 2 hours
Rami
of
Malek.
Rami Malek.
Oh,
running around tweaking, just fucking shit
I'm
up.
thinking of the Brutalist. I'm
bombing niggas.
That would be 3 hours of Adrian Brody.
It was just phenomenal performance from her in the little 10 minutes. I need more. And hopefully this is going to give us more. Also, bro, like you said,
are you about to mention it?
We're going to get a master class from my boy Nicholas Holt.
I was doubtful.
Boo,
I was doubtful.
boo.
No, Luis. I listen. I'm gonna be honest, man. I am much more confident in him to play a good Lex Luthor than I am Joseph Quinn to play a good Human Torch. Not a high bar.
Fuck
I wouldn't say that.
They're both going to be ass. They're both going to be ass.
I wouldn't say that because Joseph Quinn, that little clip of him in that Fantastic Four, that shit might mean that. I don't know. That it kind of does something. What do you mean?
Like, of course, you're out of your depth. You're not a father. Get out of here.
What do you mean? What I mean? You're late.
Y'all are insane.
I think
I don't know. I just have a bit of faith, mostly because I don't know why I can't unsee him as like, I don't know, it's like almost Agent 47, but no, never.
Renfield,
he does, but they do a number of little comic booky things in this. If I may be so bold as to put on my little
tell him,
go for it.
All right, so look.
Please.
The vibe I'm getting by Superman stopping a foreign conflict and then getting involved with like a new generation of superheroes and, you know, the government as a whole, it's kind of giving Superman versus the elite. It's this story where these, like, absolute, I mean, just complete fucking jackanapes, like these absolute fucking mongrels that I don't understand.
Well, isn't it based off of All-Star Superman?
It's based on All-Star.
Well, no. Well, it's a mixture of both from what I'm getting. It's a little bit of All-Star, right? And it's a little. I'm also getting a little bit of like
makes sense.
Not necessarily Kingdom Come, but in the aspect of
there yet. We got the logo.
But because of this being an established universe, right, and all these superheroes existing, and there's like newer superheroes popping up, because originally that was like, you know, the subtitle of this film was Legacy, so I thought it was gonna more so play with that. But I think being able to see like that kind of story adapted, because we now know, you know, a good chunk of the actual main story is Superman goes and he interferes in a conflict in a foreign country, right? And I'm assuming why a lot of the people in Metropolis are booing him and throwing shit at him is because he's like, I'm not with America. I'm not with anybody. I'm just here. They're like, what? You don't like America? You don't like the USA? Hot dogs, the Mets, baby, or whatever the fuck Metropolis has. Right, so I think they're really strongly against them for
Meteors.
that.
The Metropolis Meteors. Don't disrespect my team, bro.
Is that actually what they're called?
Big ups.
Is that
Tell me
actually
how
what they're
I do this shit, bro. I live this shit.
He do this shit, bro. He don't play by his meteors, baby.
I'll Google that later, but that's fascinating that you know that.
Gotham is the Renegades. You think I don't know this, bro? You think I don't know?
You know this?
I'm locked
Places don't exist.
I eat at Big Belly Burger.
Isn't this because of the Dark Knight? It had the names on the uniform.
Yeah, that was kind of easy. That was really easy.
All right, well.
That was really easy.
I gave you more credit this Warrington.
No,
Grant. The mask of the Ultraman in this. We see a Bizarro. We got a Bizarro, boys. We got Bizarro. We got my boy.
Really? When do we see Bizarro?
Bro, do you not see the dude with the weird gray monster face?
That's Metamorpho.
Fake fan.
Really?
Fake Fake fan.
Fake
It's
fan.
not-
Also,
there is
cool-
that shot later in the
cool
trailer where they
detail.
show his full body.
Cool detail. Metamorpho transforms into the kryptonite
in the jail.
in the jail
You know,
cell. I think that's
everyone
such
thought
a
everyone
cool.
thought that was people were like, "That's a pocket dimension." It's like, no, it's a metahuman prison, bro. What do you think?
Yeah, I think
I
that's,
also-
I think that's
Lex,
such a cool little
Lex
detail.
Corp probably running that shit.
I also like how they go with this design of like his
Mhm.
skin textured. I like that. They get textured to be like whatever compound or whatever fucking alloy or whatever shit is on him.
I would just say this
Definitely.
about the
He's
trailer.
just
I
ash.
think.
That's all it is. He needs some lotion. Ash,
Yeah, he needs some lotion, some shea butter, cocoa butter.
You know,
I
some
think-
butter, some gas.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I really like. I think this trailer really established like that this is a lived-in world. This world already exists, and I like that. I know a lot of people are kind of nervous about it, but I think the trailer balances that. I mean, we didn't see an awful lot of the other superheroes and stuff, but I think I don't know, man. It made me very positive about
Yes.
starting, dropping us into this world that's already established with heroes that are already established, with superhero worlds and lore that are already established. And it just made me very positive because I feel like the three central performances are going to be strong,
Right.
And I think if you've got a good Clark Lois dynamic and you got a good Lex Luthor serving as the foil, everything else just falls into place. And the fact that crypto seems to be such a big part of this movie as well, I think, I don't know, man. This trailer did it, man. I was like, I was already hyped, but the trailer just made me even more hyped.
And you know something, bro? Like the fact that people are upset that it's not origin. Oh, it's not. We don't need to rehash these stories over and over again. We already know how this nigga get here, bro. We already know what happened to Script Talk. That shit blown up. We got enough series and movies to tell you that. The great thing about this movie, and this is, mark my words, I think the standout performances we're going to see, obviously David as Superman, but also Mr. Terrific and Hawk Girl, because these are two characters are side characters. Here go this man. Here go this man.
Bro, look, every time, bro, listen. Just briefly, I just want to say, every time that I'm watching The Last of Us, and she does like the little like the smile at the camera, I have to go like, oh, is that for little old me? Is that for me? Oh, is he not in front of the company? Oh my god!
That picture of Drewski where he's like, "Is AZ?" He's like, for me.
Also, something that I noticed in the trailer that I think is very exciting and very promising is the like Ma and Pa Kent. I think they've seen Martha.
He's the roundest and baldest he's ever been, and I love it.
But I think them not casting famous actors that are automatically like what's it called, recognizable or famous, and they seem like the sweetest. They seem so sweet and so kind and so loving. And I think that's beautiful because they are the basis for Superman and Clark's morality and his ideology. And and it's because of them.
You don't get Superman without Ma and Pa Kent.
Exactly. They're such an important part of him to his story that I think the casting, like from the little snippets we see, it seems like he has such a tender, beautiful, kind relationship with them. And they seem like such beautiful, kind people that I'm just like, yes, this is what I want. Because without them, there is no Superman. So it just seems like, I don't know, man. I'm ready. I need this shit in my veins yesterday.
Speaking of
also
his supporting cast, like, sorry, AZ, my bad. I got to start off. Like, speaking of his supporting cast, we finally see Jimmy Olsen, and not that bullshit we got from the Snyderverse, where he's some secret CIA agent or whatever the fuck it was. Bro is his best friend. He's just another reporter doing reporter shit. I
didn't even notice.
I love Twink Jimmy Olsen. That's what we need.
Yeah, like exist in a way that's like
Olsen.
This is all like one, like you said, it feels real, it feels tangible. Even though there's some outlandish shit going on, like a kaiju in the middle of the city, this movie still feels even more.
It feels like a real place,
more realistic and grounded as a comic book story than any of the Snyder shit. No, I don't care what anyone says. They sue me right now. Come talk to me, bro. Snyder cult. Come talk to me. Come present yourself to this podcast. Present your argument. I don't give a shit what you can tell me, bro.
Matthew, my brother,
so
do you see what this? Do you see the outfit she has on in this shirt?
Purple.
Do you know purple? These niggas know ball, bro.
They read.
Oh my
They know
God.
ball, dog.
I didn't even
They know
notice
ball.
that.
Dude,
That's so
looks-
funny.
her
Oh my
cartoon
God.
character. Her cartoon character in the Superman animated series, purple outfit.
I'm telling you, bro.
Comic
James
book,
does
purple
this shit, bro. James don't
This
miss.
is-
Motherfuckers need to realize
Big
James
goat.
has not fucking missed. Why would he start
also,
now, bro?
Another
He's not gonna
another
miss.
comic book thing that I wanted to point out, bro. They did one of my favorite things. Whenever Lex Luthor's driver Mercy is also a cyborg, I fucking love it.
Mhm.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to. I
think they're going with Eve. I think they're going with Eve Teschmacher in this one though.
The engineer.
No, the engineer is somebody else, but I think they're going to Eve
Oh.
Teschmacher in this movie.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but
Good
not a
catch,
lot.
Matt. Good catch.
I would really prefer to if that's Mercy, bro, because
Mercy
she had the
Graves.
she busted out the chainsaw hands, and I was like, I know.
Maybe she uses a
Know what you
code name.
are.
It's like I'm Mercy Graves, and then she comes out with the shit.
I really hope so. because
No,
I
she's gonna
really
say some
like
corny ass
Mercy.
line like I won't show you mercy. Or
Everyone's
something like
gonna
that. Yeah.
The rest
Mercy,
of the movie,
what's mercy? And then she kills somebody.
Let's
the
talk
rest
about
of the movie had better
let's
be
talk about my
mind-blowingly
goat,
incredible.
Frank
Because if
Grillo.
that actually happens, I will put hands on someone. I don't know who.
Let's talk about Big Franklin, Big Grillo.
Oh yeah, my man's got a promotion. He's got a secretary of Argus or whatever.
I know, bro was in the last time we saw him was in Creature Commandos, and he was busy getting his ass beat by Frankenstein. No, by
Creature Commandos.
Hey, I'm not gonna deny.
Well,
it.
we don't know. We don't know the
deny that.
timeline. That's the thing. We don't know the timeline. We don't know when
That's
this
what I
takes
want
place.
to know. That's what I want to know.
Well-
What is this? Because Peacemaker season 2 also has Frank Grillo in it.
Mhm.
But
So
but
where's
here's
all this? Where's all this
As
going?
the Secretary of Defense.
I'm thinking. Yeah.
This nigga getting
so
promoted left and right.
Good for
What is
him.
he
thinking?
We stand.
And how do
What
I get
I'm-
on this level?
what I'm thinking is there's some kind of debacle that happens with the task force, right? And Waller, right? That's so like mind fuckingly bad, which they gotta just stop putting her in charge of shit at this point. But there's a point where I'm fairly certain it goes Creature Commandos, and then I'm assuming the events of Superman, like things that happen here, and then based off of whatever happens here with Maxwell Lord and all that goes into Peacemaker season 2. That's where I'm theorizing.
Of course. Maxwell Lord is going to be in Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah. Sean Gunn. Nepotism. Like that.
Hey, the
Well
good
done.
kind. You love to see it.
nepotism. Good
At least,
nepotism.
because at least this one's an actually talented nepotism.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to say this is at least a talented Maxwell Lord, and I was about to shoot you through the fucking screen.
I
Now,
can't
see,
lie.
Pedro was disserviced by shitty fucking script. It's not
It's
his
a
fault.
very
Also,
not
this
good
across-
product overall.
across Gal Gadot, like, what are you supposed to do? She's got the equivalent acting talent of a wet paper bag. There's
If I go outside right now, I could take a small piece of a pebble from a pothole and act to it. That is talking to Gal Gadot.
Nah, Superman is gonna be movie. It's gonna be my new Top Gun for a good minute.
It's
Mind you,
between
hype
this
meter,
and
hype
Fantastic
meter.
Four for me for movie of the year.
I'm like a solid 10 on
Movie
this
of the
one.
year?
I won't say movie of the
Really?
year because Sinners is my movie of the year. You already know what I'm on, Big Sin. But I
This
think
might be my
Fantastic
movie
Four-
of the year.
Eddington is
actually.
going to be my movie of the year.
You said
Paddington?
Paddington?
No, Eddington. Eddington.
Oh,
I'm gonna say Paddington. Get the fuck out
is
of
it gonna
here.
get another one?
Paddington's real cinema,
Damn
baby.
bear.
All right,
Anyways.
he said so.
This is a 10 for me on the hype meter.
This is a 10,
I'm-
absolute 10. Especially,
I'm a-
especially as those of us as we were early to the call, early to the pulse on this. I think this is the one movie where we have to be full send, 100%.
We have to.
We
for
can't
our boy
back down.
David. For our boy David.
Big
We have
Corin
to.
split, my goat.
It's got, I would say, it's got Nathan Fillion being stupid. It's got a beautiful woman, beautiful Latina woman.
Two.
at that.
Wait. Two beautiful women.
Beautiful Latina though. I'm getting specific.
Rachel Brosnahan. She bad.
Rachel Brosnan is the least Latina
Rachel-
name I've ever
Rachel
heard.
La Brosnahan.
I know she's not Raquel Brosnan. I'm not saying
Raquel
she's
Brosnan.
Latina. I'm saying she's beautiful as well.
No, but that was my distinction. I said
Mm.
beautiful Latina.
Apologies.
But
My fault. My
not
fault.
to, not
Sorry.
to,
My fault,
but
King.
you know, with
My fault,
Isabella and Rachel both
Shadow.
being amazing,
Mhm.
amazing. This is like a 20 for. I genuinely,
Damn.
I can, bro. It has crypto. All right, my first dog that I ever had.
This
as a
is
child,
gonna
I
hit
named
so
Crypto.
hard when it's dog shit, bro.
Dude. I swear, if this movie manages to somehow fuck me over, I will never trust cinema again.
I'll cry, bro.
It's got a lot. I think it's got a lot riding on it.
That's the
It's
thing.
so good.
It's the kickoff point of the DC. I know Creature Commandos
Even-
was the starting point.
Yeah.
This is the real launch pad,
Of
and this
course.
is their cornerstone, bro. Superman is the most iconic superhero.
Like, even
Superman
if
and
this,
like, Spider-Man are the most iconic superheroes. If you
I'd say
fuck up a
Batman's
Superman-
up there.
yeah, Batman,
Yeah,
Superman,
Batman,
Spider-Man. That's the
yeah.
Trinity. That's the Trinity.
But if you
That's most
fuck up a
people's too.
Superman movie, it's over. You cannot.
It's
There's no
just
coming
like-
back from that. And that's a very big bar.
Yeah.
Honestly, James,
That's not true.
James Gunn-
Zack Snyder made fucking like 4 more movies after fucking up
Well,
Superman.
that's the thing.
well, yeah,
Sometimes
because the studio was like, "Oh, Man of Steel managed to make some money, so let's go keep making more movies, guy."
essentially.
Also, you
And
gotta remember
also,
it's Warner Brothers. They don't know what the fuck
this-
they're doing. They just changed HBO Max to Max back to
They're
HBO.
like 30 billion in debt. We're not taking business advice from Warner Bros.
Zaslav is a bitch.
But I think
They distributed Sinners.
with this,
I'm sorry,
cool.
Zaslav. I didn't know your game.
Okay, I mean, like if I called 911 to like save somebody in an accident, you know, I didn't do the surgery. I'm not the paramedic. I'm just the delivery mechanism. I'm not the guy.
Fair.
But with all that being said, I think this movie is, dare I say, too big to fail. Just solely in the sense that like my expectations are so high for this movie to where even if it met a fraction of anything below it, I would say this is the best movie ever made.
I'll push back. You say it's too big to fail. I say, do people give a fuck about Superman anymore?
Well, we're gonna find out. We're gonna
We
find
will.
out.
We will. We're
I'm
past.
confident.
We're way past the days of superhero movies making $1 billion. I don't
Yep.
think this will make $1 billion, but I think it might. It's gonna make more than Fantastic Four, and I think it's gonna make more than recent MCU fare.
I'd say that. Yeah, I'd say that there's a large amount of hype and good amount of word of mouth to where like my like 58-year-old coworker, she asked me about this movie, and I was like,
If it's bad, bro,
Yeah.
don't even make any more DC projects. If this is done.
don't even make any more.
Don't even
movies.
release Supergirl. Don't release Supergirl. If this is ass,
If it's
call
Give
it
us,
quits.
give us
Just
Batgirl.
cancel
I wanna see what
everything.
that movie looks
no,
like.
no, just cancel everything. Wait about 15 years and start over.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let people forget. Wait about 15
But-
because that's what the DCEU should have done. They should have waited. I mean,
Mm.
granted, it's James Gunn. I feel confident in James Gunn. I think we're in good hands with him and Peter Safran. However, in a perfect world, they would have started the DCEU out correctly and paced their movies out over the course of like 10 years versus trying to rush into the Justice League film. 2,
Mhm.
keep what they had, fucked up everything and all. Find a way to do a reset with the Flashpoint storyline, erase everything, make a new timeline, and then go piece by piece. They didn't do that. They said hard reset, new universe. Let's go right into it. So now we're like, this has to succeed. This absolutely has to succeed. There's no room for failure. There's no any little like misstep. People are gonna be like, ooh, James Gunn can't do ooh.
I mean,
You know-
I feel like people are already acting like
Yeah,
that.
they're
They
already
already
doing
don't
that.
trust him.
and we haven't even seen anything yet. But that's just the way that people are on the internet. You know, they're too you know, bogged down in the old thing that they got their original part of, whether it's like an adaptation, right, or it's a sequel or it's a reboot or whatever. Everybody always will hate whatever the remake is, and then they'll do
Yep.
another reboot. They'll be like, oh, perhaps we treated this too harshly. It's a cult classic. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that's all we're doing. It's a thing that comes in waves, and we're just gonna see it with this.
All right, fair.
Cinema coming, bro. Cinema coming. I'm telling you.
And my
Seeing
name's
these-
Cinema.
Seeing these vibrant colors, seeing all those vibrant colors, seeing it looks like a comic book on screen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you believe
That's
people are
not-
complaining about this?
You need to shut up,
I
bro.
can.
You need to go get a life, bro. Goddamn. Why y'all want this shit to be dark and gritty? Superman is hopeful. Superman is colorful. Superman has his trunks outside of his pants because he wants to
Right.
look like a pro wrestler.
And here's the thing:
it's
the
something
storyline,
to look at.
the story, the themes, and the what's it called, and the emotions portrayed in the story can be dark and gritty. That does not mean you have to sacrifice color grading and lighting and costumes in order to do so.
Yes.
Legitimately, like
If you made a Batman movie and it was this bright and colorful, then I'd have some concern.
Hey, not too much on Batman and Robin, baby boy.
The
Greatest Batman movie of all time ever made.
No, the Batman still
But-
exists.
legitimately,
Close
I
second.
think that we're in a situation where like we've needed this kind of push for DC movies to be more hopeful. All right, you want sad DC movies? Go watch the Snyder Cut.
I mean, not all of
If you
them,
would-
but this
or-
character for
or-
sure.
Yeah,
Don't
at least
watch
for
the
Superman
Snyder Cut.
especially,
That's
right?
ass.
If you want sad superhero shit, go watch some Snyder shit, or if you want like sad superheroes,
No,
I don't know,
Go
fucking
watch
Don't
watch
fucking-
Snyder.
Go
Matter
watch
of
Two
fact-
Girls, One Cup instead. Don't watch
Yeah,
the Snyder Cut.
go.
Do not
go-
watch
go
the
do
Snyder
that.
Cut.
You might as well go fucking dress up in
Watch
a Batman
Paint Dry.
costume and think about how many people don't text you on your birthday if you want a sad superhero story. All right, you piece of shit. Fucking enjoy it. Fucking enjoy it. This is a beautiful
Go
movie,
watch
and this
UK
is great.
Traffic and wonder why they're driving on the wrong side of the road before you watch the Snyder Cut, bro. Don't watch that
Watch
shit.
just watch Houston Traffic. That's fun.
Hey, man.
That's actually kind of fun.
Hey, man.
They
Big
can't
ups.
drive.
Greatest city on
You
earth.
Dallas motherfuckers aren't that much better, bitch.
Dallas
Hey,
worse. I don't
listen.
think anybody Dallas needs
Listen.
Superman to cover the
Listen.
roads. This shit.
Y'all take the speed limit as a suggestion, and we're terrible.
Take the speed, and that's it for the Cinestro Accords. You can take the speed limit to our subscribe button. I don't know. I tried, yo. I tried.
That was great. That was
I don't
great.
do this shit like yo.
That was
Hey.
great. Now he rolling through it. It's true. He's rolling through it just like we rolled through this episode. Another episode.
Nice. There
Big
you
ups
go.
to everybody.
That's
who
how
be
you get
tuning
paid
in.
the big bucks, baby.
I don't get paid
You
shit.
get paid? Oh.
I don't get paid shit. I had to pay for this jersey, bro. Like that's how you know we don't do this.
Hell yeah, brother.
One day we're gonna have merch and y'all gonna buy it. But until then, go ahead and give us a follow on all platforms at Cinestro Corp. No S. Follow our boy AZ, twitch.tv, Tari Singo. All platforms at Tari Singo, except for Instagram, which is Big Papa Tari. That's gonna be
That's
TikTok.
right.
And then, of course, follow our big homies over at Backstage OL. All the news and information that you need for Hollywood, cinema, TV shows, etc. will be there in a more succinct and professional format versus our random ass tweets
Beautiful.
we drop every 5 days. And then, of course, like I said, follow us at Cinestro Corp. We got something big coming up. I know I said last episode we're going to do it this week, but it's going to happen this week just in a separate episode. Big surprise, interviewing a very special guest. We've been planning this for a little minute. And I'm really excited for y'all to see what we got cooking in the pipeline. But until then, keep being awesome. Keep drinking your water, eat your Wheaties, and we'll see you on the next episode of Special Corp.
We're the kings of the screen, yeah. Cinestro Core, we're the dream, yeah. New episode Saturday afternoon. We in your ear, that comic book crew. More good it takes what we do. Cinestro Core, we're the crew.